In a quiet corner of the galaxy, far from the bustling trade routes and shining cities of humanity's core worlds, an emergency signal broke the silence of space. It was faint at first, almost lost among the static of cosmic radiation, but it grew stronger as it traveled across light years. The signal carried no clear origin, only a desperate plea for help. "Help us, they're coming." Captain Ryan Carter leaned forward in his command chair aboard the starship Eclipse *, his brow furrowed as he listened to the transmission. His crew worked silently around him, their faces tense with worry. The Eclipse * was a small but capable vessel, part of the outer patrol fleet tasked with guarding humanity's borders against threats both known and unknown. This signal came from deep within uncharted territory, a region marked on maps with ominous warnings about abandoned planets and ancient ruins. Ryan glanced at First Officer Laura Bennett, who stood nearby with her arms crossed. She shook her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "We don't have to do this," she said finally, breaking the silence. "It could be a trap, or worse, something we're not prepared for." Ryan didn't answer right away. He stared at the blinking dot on the main screen, representing the source of the signal, a desolate planet called Silo 7. No one had visited Silo 7 in centuries, not since the last traces of its original inhabitants vanished without explanation. Some believed the planet held secrets from a forgotten age, while others dismissed it as nothing more than a barren wasteland. Whatever it was, the message made it clear that something important was happening there now. "We can't ignore it," Ryan said after a moment. His voice was calm but firm. "If someone, or something, is asking for help, we owe it to them to find out why." Laura sighed but nodded reluctantly. Orders were given, and the Eclipse * adjusted course, engines humming softly as the ship turned toward Silo 7. As they traveled, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into something much bigger than any of them realized. The signal had been chillingly vague, almost like a warning rather than a cry for assistance, but curiosity burned inside him, urging him forward. Days passed as the Eclipse * approached its destination. When the planet finally came into view, it looked just as lifeless as the reports described. Its surface was scarred by craters and covered in thick layers of gray dust. Nothing moved under the dim light of its distant sun. Yet, despite the emptiness, sensors picked up strange energy readings emanating from beneath the surface. A landing party was assembled quickly. Lieutenant Daniel Hayes, the ship's science officer, led the team alongside Communications Officer Sarah Miller. Both wore expressions of cautious excitement as they boarded the shuttle bound for the planet's surface. Laura stayed behind on the bridge, keeping watch over the ship while Ryan monitored their progress from orbit. As the shuttle descended, Sarah spoke up, her voice cutting through the hum of the engines. "Do you think anyone's still alive down there?" she asked, glancing at Daniel. He shrugged, his eyes fixed on the controls. "Doubtful, but whoever sent that signal must have left something behind. Clues, maybe even answers." The shuttle touched down gently on the rocky terrain, kicking up clouds of dust. The team stepped out cautiously, scanning the area with handheld scanners. At first glance, the landscape seemed completely dead. But then, one of the devices began beeping wildly, pointing toward a jagged cliff face nearby. Daniel frowned as he examined the readings. "There's something underground," he muttered. "Some kind of structure." They moved closer, boots crunching against the dry soil. Embedded in the cliffside was a massive door, half buried, and covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly. The air felt heavier here, charged with an energy none of them could explain. Sarah reached out hesitantly, brushing her fingers against the cool metal. And then, without warning, the symbols flared brighter, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. A low hum filled the air, resonating deep within their chests. For a brief moment, everyone froze, unsure of what would happen next. Whatever lay beyond that door, it was waiting for them. The team stood frozen, staring at the glowing symbols on the ancient door. The rhythmic pulsing seemed to grow louder, echoing in their ears like a distant drumbeat. Sarah Miller took a step back, her heart pounding. What is this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Lieutenant Daniel Hayes didn't answer right away. He adjusted his scanner, trying to make sense of the readings. The device buzzed erratically, unable to fully process whatever energy was emanating from the structure. "It's some kind of alien tech," he said finally. "But it's unlike anything I've ever seen before." The others exchanged uneasy glances. None of them had expected to find something so advanced on a planet as barren as Tylo 7. Ryan Carter's voice crackled over their comms, breaking the tension. "Report," he ordered. "What's going on down there?" Daniel hesitated for a moment before replying. "We found a structure buried in the cliffside, Captain. It's emitting some kind of energy signal. Symbols on the door are glowing. Looks like they're responding to our presence." There was a pause on the other end. Then Ryan spoke again, his tone cautious but firm. "Proceed carefully. If this thing is active after all these years, it could be dangerous." The team nodded to each other and moved closer to the door. Daniel examined the symbols more closely, running his fingers lightly over the smooth surface. They felt warm to the touch, almost alive. One of the symbols caught his eye, a spiral pattern that seemed to shift slightly when he looked at it directly. Without thinking, he pressed it. A deep rumble shook the ground beneath their feet. The door began to open slowly, grinding against the rock with a sound that sent chills down their spines. Dust and debris fell from above as a dark passageway was revealed. The air inside smelled stale, like it hadn't been disturbed in centuries. "Should we go in?" Sarah asked nervously, gripping her scanner tightly. Daniel glanced at her, then back at the entrance. "We didn't come all this way just to turn around now," he said, though his voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward into the shadows, the rest of the team following close behind. Inside, the walls were lined with faintly glowing panels similar to the ones outside. They cast an eerie light over everything, illuminating strange carvings and intricate designs etched into the stone. The floor sloped downward, leading deeper into the structure. Every step echoed loudly, making them feel even more exposed. As they ventured further, Daniel noticed something unusual. The carvings weren't random. They told a story. He stopped to examine one section, pointing out figures that appeared to represent a race of tall, slender beings wielding weapons unlike anything humanity had developed. "These might be the original inhabitants of Silo 7, he murmured. Sarah leaned in, squinting at the images. If they were so advanced, what happened to them? Before Daniel could respond, the ground beneath them trembled again. A loud clang echoed through the corridor, followed by the sound of metal scraping against metal. They spun around, hearts racing, only to see part of the ceiling slide shut behind them, sealing off their exit. Guys," one of the security officers said, his voice tight with alarm. "I think we're trapped." Daniel quickly scanned the area, searching for another way out. His device picked up movement ahead, a faint heat signature moving toward them. Whatever it wasn't human. "Stay alert," he warned, raising his weapon cautiously. The team pressed onward, adrenaline pumping through their veins. At the end of the corridor, they entered a large chamber filled with strange machinery. In the center stood a pedestal, atop which rested a crystalline object glowing with a soft blue light. It pulsed in time with the symbols on the walls, giving off an almost hypnotic effect. "This must be what the signal was about," Sarah said, stepping closer to the crystal despite her fear. She reached out hesitantly, her fingers hovering just above its surface. Suddenly, the room came alive. Lights flashed, machines whirred to life, and a holographic projection erupted from the pedestal. It showed scenes of destruction, entire planets collapsing into nothingness, fleets of ships being torn apart by unseen forces. A single phrase repeated itself in an unknown language overlaid across the images. Asterisk, they're coming. Asterisk. Sarah recoiled, her eyes wide with horror. What does that mean? Who's coming? No one had an answer. But as the message looped endlessly, one thing became clear. The artifact wasn't just a relic of the past. It was a warning. And judging by the urgency of the signal, the danger it warned of might already be on its way. The team stood frozen in the chamber, staring at the holographic projection. The images of destruction played over and over again, each frame more horrifying than the last. Planets crumbled into dust, stars imploded, and entire fleets were wiped out by an unseen force. The phrase asterisk, "They're coming," asterisk, echoed in their minds, leaving them chilled to the bone. "What is this thing?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the machinery. She took a step back from the pedestal, her hands trembling. The crystalline object pulsed steadily, its blue light casting eerie shadows across the room. Daniel Hayes moved closer to the pedestal, his scanner buzzing furiously as it tried to analyze the artifact. "It's some kind of recording," he said, his eyes glued to the device. "But it's not just showing us what happened, it's warning us about something that's still out there." The security officer behind him shifted uneasily, gripping his weapon tighter. "You think whatever did this is still alive?" Daniel didn't answer right away. He adjusted the settings on his scanner, trying to pull more information from the artifact. Finally, he spoke, his tone grim. "If these projections are accurate, then yes, whatever destroyed those planets and fleets isn't gone. It's waiting." Sarah wrapped her arms around herself, feeling a cold dread creep up her spine. Waiting for what? Before Daniel could respond, the ground beneath them trembled again. This time, it wasn't just a faint vibration. It was a deep, resonant shaking that made the walls groan. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and the glowing panels flickered erratically. The hologram sputtered and vanished, plunging the room into near darkness. "We need to get out of here," one of the security officers shouted, his voice sharp with panic. "No, wait," Daniel snapped, holding up a hand. "We can't leave without figuring out what this thing does. It might be our only clue about who, or what, is coming." Sarah hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. She glanced at the crystal again, its steady glow somehow both comforting and menacing. What if taking it triggers something? What if we make things worse? Daniel frowned, considering her words. He knew she had a point. Messing with alien technology had never ended well for humanity. But they couldn't just abandon it either. If the artifact held answers, they needed to bring it back to the Eclipse for further study. "Fine," he said finally. "We'll take it, but carefully. Everyone stay alert." With great caution, Daniel reached out and lifted the crystal from the pedestal. It felt surprisingly light in his hands, almost weightless. But the moment he touched it, the room changed. The walls began to shift, panels sliding open to reveal hidden compartments filled with strange devices. Lights blinked rapidly, and a low, mechanical voice spoke in a language none of them understood. "Oh, guys," Sarah said nervously, pointing toward the entrance. A red glow was spreading along the edges of the doorway, accompanied by a high-pitched whine that grew louder with each passing second. "That doesn't sound good," muttered the security officer, backing away slowly. Daniel stuffed the crystal into a protective case and slung it over his shoulder. "Let's move," he ordered, gesturing for the team to follow him. They sprinted back through the corridor, their footsteps echoing loudly in the narrow space. Behind them, the structure seemed to come alive, walls shifting and closing off paths they had just taken. When they reached the sealed door that had trapped them earlier, Daniel cursed under his breath. "It won't open," he shouted, pounding on the metal surface. The red glow was creeping closer, illuminating the passageway with an ominous hue. "Stand back," Sarah yelled. She pulled a small explosive charge from her belt, a tool meant for clearing debris, and placed it against the door. With a loud bang, the charge detonated, blasting the door open. They stumbled outside, gasping for air as alarms blared inside the structure. The shuttle was just ahead, waiting where they had left it. As they ran, The ground shook violently once more, and part of the cliffside collapsed, burying the entrance to the structure beneath tons of rock and dust. By the time they reached the shuttle, they were covered in dirt and sweat, their hearts racing. As the engines roared to life and the shuttle ascended, Sarah glanced back at the planet below. Through the window, she could see flashes of light emanating from the buried structure, like it was fighting back even in its death throes. "What did we just do?" she murmured, her voice heavy with uncertainty. Daniel didn't answer. He stared at the protective case containing the crystal, his expression unreadable. Whatever they had awakened, it was clear that their mission was far from over. The shuttle docked with the Eclipse *, and the team hurried onto the main deck, their faces pale and drawn. Captain Ryan Carter was waiting for them, his sharp eyes immediately noticing the tension in their expressions. "Report," he said, his voice calm but firm. Lieutenant Daniel Hayes stepped forward, holding the protective case containing the crystal. "We found something, Captain," he began, placing the case on the table. "It's some kind of alien artifact. It was inside a hidden structure on the planet. And it activated when we touched it." Ryan frowned, leaning closer to examine the case. The blue glow of the crystal was faintly visible through the reinforced material. "Activated how?" he asked, his tone betraying a mix of curiosity and concern. Before Daniel could answer, alarms blared across the ship. Red warning lights flashed, and the crew scrambled to their stations. "Captain," shouted one of the officers from the sensor station, "multiple ships are exiting hyperspace near our position." Ryan's jaw tightened as he turned toward the main screen. A fleet of alien vessels had appeared, their designs unlike anything humanity had encountered before. They were sleek and insect-like, with jagged edges and glowing green markings along their hulls. Each ship bristled with weapons, and they moved with an eerie precision, surrounding the Eclipse in moments. "Who are they?" Laura Bennett asked, her voice tight with alarm, as she joined Ryan on the bridge. "We don't know yet," Ryan replied, his eyes fixed on the screen. He tapped his comms. "Raise shields and prepare for evasive maneuvers. Weapons teams, stand by." A transmission crackled through the speakers, and a harsh guttural voice filled the room. Though the language was unfamiliar, the tone was unmistakable, demanding and hostile. Moments later, the ship's translation system kicked in, rendering the message in broken but understandable English. "You have taken what is ours. Surrender now or be destroyed." Ryan glanced at Daniel, who looked uneasy but nodded slightly. "They're talking about the artifact," Daniel said quietly. "They must have been monitoring us, or maybe even the planet itself." Ryan clenched his fists, weighing their options. The Eclipse was fast and agile, but it was no match for an entire fleet. Still, surrendering wasn't an option, not when the artifact might hold secrets vital to humanity's survival. "Hail them," he ordered. When the channel opened, he spoke clearly, projecting confidence despite the odds. "This is Captain Ryan Carter of the starship Eclipse *. We mean you no harm. We retrieved the artifact for study, not theft. Let us discuss this peacefully." The response came almost instantly, laced with anger. "There will be no discussion. Return the artifact or face annihilation." Laura leaned closer to Ryan, speaking softly so only he could hear. "They're not bluffing, Captain. Look at their formation. They're preparing to fire." Ryan nodded grimly. Turning back to the crew, he gave the order. "Divert all power to engines and shields. Plot a course for the nearest jump point. We need to get out of here." As the Eclipse surged forward, the alien fleet opened fire. Bright green beams of energy streaked past the ship, narrowly missing its hull. The crew worked frantically, dodging attacks while trying to create an opening for escape. Explosions lit up the void around them, shaking the ship with each near miss. "Jump point plotted," called the navigator. "But we've got company. They're matching our speed." Ryan gritted his teeth, "Deploy decoys," he commanded. "Make them think we're splitting up." Dozens of small drones launched from the Eclipse Asterisk, scattering in different directions. The alien ships hesitated for a moment, unsure which target to pursue. That brief hesitation was all the Eclipse Asterisk needed. With a burst of speed, the ship slipped into hyperspace, leaving the enemy fleet behind. On the bridge, the crew let out a collective sigh of relief, though the tension remained palpable. Ryan turned to Daniel, who still held the protective case. "What exactly did we just steal?" he asked, his voice low. Daniel shook his head, his expression grim. "I don't know, Captain. But if those aliens are willing to start a war over it, it's something we can't ignore." Ryan stared at the case for a long moment, then nodded. "Get that thing to the lab. We need answers, and fast, because whoever those aliens are, they're not going to stop until they get it back." Back aboard the Eclipse Asterisk, the crew worked tirelessly to analyze the artifact, while Captain Ryan Carter prepared a galaxy-wide distress call. The alien fleet's sudden appearance had confirmed one thing. Whatever the crystal was, it was worth fighting for and dying for. Ryan knew they couldn't face such a powerful enemy alone. Humanity would need allies if they hoped to survive. The message was simple but urgent. "Attention all Allied forces. This is Captain Ryan Carter of the starship Eclipse Asterisk. We have retrieved an alien artifact from the planet Silo 7. It has drawn the attention of a hostile fleet that poses a significant threat to our borders. Immediate assistance is required. Rendezvous at Titan Station within 72 hours. Failure to act now may result in catastrophic consequences." As the transmission broadcast across the galaxy, responses began trickling in. Some were hesitant, others outright skeptical. But eventually, representatives from various human colonies and allied alien species agreed to meet at Titan Station, humanity's largest military outpost located near the edge of known space. Among those responding were Admiral William Hartman, commanding the cruiser Defiant Asterisk, and Captain Emily Dawson of the stealth frigate Shadow Asterisk. Their arrival brought a mix of hope and tension. Titan Station buzzed with activity as ships of all shapes and sizes docked in preparation for the upcoming battle. Inside the station's main conference room, leaders gathered around a large holographic table displaying maps of the contested region. Ryan stood at the head of the table, the protective case containing the artifact resting beside him. He recounted their discovery on Silo 7, the attack by the unknown fleet, and the ominous warning etched into the crystal's projections. Admiral Hartman leaned forward, his grizzled face lined with concern. "You're telling us this thing isn't just a relic, it's a weapon?" he asked, pointing at the case. "We don't know yet," Ryan admitted, "but based on what we've seen, it's capable of immense destruction, and whoever those aliens are, they want it back badly enough to start a war." Captain Dawson crossed her arms, her sharp eyes narrowing. "And you think bringing it here was a good idea? What happens if they track us?" Daniel Hayes stepped in, speaking quickly. "We had no choice. Leaving it behind would have made them unstoppable. At least this way, we have a chance to figure out how it works, and maybe use it against them." The room erupted into heated debate. Some argued that the artifact should be destroyed immediately, while others insisted on studying it further. Tensions ran high, especially among the alien delegates, who feared humanity might misuse the technology. A representative from the Varni, a bird-like species known for their cautious nature, spoke up. "This object is dangerous. If it falls into the wrong hands, it could destroy entire star systems. Are you certain your people can handle such power responsibly?" Ryan met the Varni's gaze steadily. "We didn't ask for this responsibility, but now that it's ours, we have no choice but to step up. If we don't fight, none of us will be safe." After hours of arguing, a plan began to take shape. The coalition decided to launch a two-pronged operation. A strike team, led by Captain Dawson, would infiltrate enemy territory using cloaked ships to destroy their central command hub. Meanwhile, The main fleet, including the Eclipse and the Defiant would lure the bulk of the alien forces into a diversionary battle, buying time for the strike team to complete their mission. As the meeting adjourned, Ryan pulled Daniel aside. "How close are you to figuring out how this thing works?" he asked, nodding toward the case. Daniel hesitated, running a hand through his hair. "Close, but not close enough. The energy patterns are incredibly complex. Without more time, you'll have to make do with what we've got," Ryan interrupted, his tone firm. "If things go south, we might need to use it as a last resort." Daniel nodded reluctantly, knowing the risks involved. Using the artifact without fully understanding it could have disastrous consequences, but so could failing to stop the enemy. Later that evening, Ryan found himself staring out of a viewport, watching the assembled fleet prepare for battle. The weight of leadership pressed heavily on his shoulders. Beside him, Laura approached quietly. "Do you think we can win this?" she asked, her voice soft. Ryan sighed, his gaze fixed on the stars. "I don't know, but I do know one thing. We can't afford to lose." The Coalition fleet gathered near Titan Station, a massive armada of ships representing humanity and its alien allies. Engines hummed, weapons charged, and crews prepared for what could be the most dangerous mission any of them had ever faced. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge of the Eclipse watching as the final preparations unfolded. The strike team, led by Captain Emily Dawson aboard the stealth frigate Shadow had already departed under cover of darkness. Their task was perilous: to infiltrate enemy territory and destroy the central hive world that served as the command center for the Kralgan Empire. Meanwhile, Ryan's role was clear: lead the diversionary force. The main fleet, including Admiral Hartman's cruiser Defiant would engage the Kralgan forces head-on, drawing their attention away from Silo 7 and giving the strike team a fighting chance to succeed. It was a risky plan, but it was the only one they had. As the countdown to departure ticked down, Ryan addressed his crew over the ship's intercom. "This is it," he said, his voice steady and resolute. "We've trained for moments like this. We've fought battles before, but today we fight not just for ourselves, for every living being in this galaxy. Stay sharp, trust each other, and remember why we're here." The Eclipse moved into position at the front of the fleet, flanked by dozens of smaller fighters and support vessels. On the main screen, the vast expanse of space stretched out before them, eerily quiet for now. But everyone knew that silence wouldn't last long. Hours passed as the fleet approached the designated battle zone. Sensors picked up movement, a swarm of Kralgan ships emerging from hyperspace. They were even larger than expected, their insectoid designs bristling with cannons and energy weapons. The sight sent a shiver through the crew, but there was no time for fear. Orders were given, and the fleet formed up, ready to face the enemy. "Here they come," shouted one of the officers as the Kralgan fleet accelerated toward them. Green beams of energy streaked across space, slamming into the shields of the human ships. Explosions lit up the void, shaking the Eclipse violently. "Return fire," Ryan commanded, gripping the edge of his chair. The order rippled through the fleet, and within moments, the humans and their allies unleashed a barrage of missiles and laser blasts. The battle erupted into chaos, ships weaving and dodging as they exchanged fire. Fighters dipped between the larger vessels, launching torpedoes and strafing enemy hulls. Despite their best efforts, the coalition forces were outnumbered. The Kralgans pressed forward relentlessly, their superior numbers beginning to overwhelm the defenders. Shouts filled the bridge of the Eclipse as damage reports came flooding in. Shields were failing, and casualties mounted. Ryan clenched his fists, refusing to give up. "Laura, divert all available power to the engines. We need to keep them chasing us." "Aye, Captain," Laura replied, her hands flying over the controls. The Eclipse surged forward, leading the fleet deeper into enemy territory. Behind them, the Kralgan ships gave chase, their formations tightening as they pursued. On board the Defiant Admiral Hartman coordinated the counterattack, ordering salvos of heavy artillery to slow the advancing swarm. "Hold the line," he barked to his crew. "Don't let them break through." Amid the chaos, Ryan checked the status of the strike team. A brief message from Captain Dawson confirmed they were still en route to the hive world, undetected so far. "Keep going," Ryan whispered to himself, hoping against hope that the plan would work. Back on the bridge, Sarah Miller monitored communications, her eyes scanning for any sign of betrayal or ambush. Suddenly, she froze, her fingers hovering over her console. "Captain, I'm picking up something unusual," she said, her voice tight with worry. "One of our ships. It's broadcasting an unauthorized signal." Ryan turned sharply. "What kind of signal?" "It's encrypted, but it's heading straight for the Kralgan fleet." A cold knot formed in Ryan's stomach. Someone in the coalition had betrayed them. The unauthorized signal sent a ripple of unease through the Eclipse. Captain Ryan Carter's mind raced as he processed Sarah Miller's report. Someone in the coalition fleet had betrayed them, and the consequences could be catastrophic. The Kralgan Empire now had critical information about their strategy, possibly even the location of the strike team. "Can we pinpoint which ship sent it?" Ryan asked sharply, his voice cutting through the chaos on the bridge. Sarah worked quickly, her fingers flying over the console. "It's coming from the Vanguard *", she replied, her expression grim. The Vanguard * was a medium-sized cruiser commanded by Admiral Nathan Cole, a decorated officer who had recently fallen out of favor after accusations of corruption. His presence in the coalition fleet had been controversial from the start. Ryan clenched his jaw. "Get me Admiral Hartman on the line." Moments later, Admiral Hartman's grizzled face appeared on the main screen. "What is it, Carter?" he asked, his tone impatient as explosions rocked the Defiant in the background. "We've got a traitor in our ranks," Ryan said bluntly. "It's Cole. He's feeding intel to the Kralgans." Hartman's eyes narrowed. "Are you sure?" "Positive," Ryan replied. "We need to neutralize him before he compromises the entire operation." Hartman hesitated for only a second before nodding. "Do what you have to do. I'll keep the Kralgans busy here." Ryan turned to Laura Bennett, who stood nearby. "Prepare a boarding party. We're taking the Vanguard * offline." Meanwhile, aboard the Shadow *, Captain Emily Dawson and her strike team were deep in enemy territory. Cloaked and moving silently, they approached the hive world, a massive insectoid structure floating in space, surrounded by layers of defensive ships. So far, they had avoided detection, but Emily knew their luck wouldn't hold forever. "Status report," she ordered, glancing at her crew. "All systems nominal," replied Lieutenant Marcus Reed, her second in command. "Cloaking field holding steady. We should reach the hive world in 10 minutes." Emily nodded, though her stomach churned with tension. She glanced at the glowing case containing the artifact, secured in a containment unit near the back of the ship. The weight of their mission pressed heavily on her shoulders. If they failed, the galaxy would pay the price. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the Shadow *. "Captain," shouted one of the officers. "Incoming bogies, Kralgan fighters. They've found us." Emily's heart sank. Somehow, the enemy had anticipated their arrival. "Drop cloak and prepare for evasive maneuvers," she ordered. The Shadow * decloaked, revealing its sleek frame just as a swarm of Kralgan fighters descended upon them. Back in the main battle, the Eclipse broke away from the fight, heading straight for the Vanguard *. Ryan led the boarding party himself, determined to confront Admiral Cole personally. As they docked with the rogue cruiser, laser fire erupted in the corridors, forcing them to fight their way through Cole's loyalists. Finally, they reached the bridge. Admiral Cole stood there, calm and defiant, his hands clasped behind his back. "You're too late, Carter," he sneered. "The Kralgans know everything." Ryan stepped forward, his weapon trained on Cole. "Why? Why would you betray your own people?" Cole laughed bitterly. "My own people? Humanity abandoned me when I needed them most. The Kralgans offered me power and revenge." Before Ryan could respond, an explosion rocked the ship. The Vanguard systems began to fail as the Kralgans targeted it remotely, cutting off its engines and weapons. Cole smirked, knowing he had played his final card. But Ryan wasn't done yet. "Detain him," he ordered his team. Turning to Laura, who had accompanied him, he said, "Set the self-destruct sequence. We can't let this ship fall into enemy hands." As the countdown began, Ryan and his team evacuated, leaving Cole behind. Moments later, the Vanguard exploded in a brilliant burst of light, temporarily scattering the Kralgan forces. Despite the setback, the diversion continued. The Coalition fleet fought fiercely, buying precious time for the strike team. Aboard the Shadow Emily Dawson rallied her crew, determined to complete their mission no matter the cost. The Hive world loomed ahead, its defenses growing stronger with each passing second. "We only get one shot at this," Emily said, her voice firm. "Make it count." The Shadow charged forward, weapons blazing, ready to deliver the blow that could turn the tide of the war or seal their doom. The Shadow surged forward, its small frame weaving through a storm of enemy fire. Captain Emily Dawson gripped the edge of her command chair, her knuckles white as she watched the Hive world grow larger on the main screen. The Kralgan fighters swarmed around them like angry insects, their green energy beams slicing through space. Explosions rocked the ship with every hit, but Emily refused to back down. "Shields are at 40%, shouted one of the officers, his voice strained. "We can't take much more of this." Emily didn't respond immediately. Her eyes were locked on the target, a massive opening in the Hive world's outer shell, likely an entry point for supplies or reinforcements. If they could get inside, they might stand a chance of completing their mission. "Marcus, focus all remaining power on the engines," she ordered. "We're going in." Lieutenant Marcus Reed nodded, his fingers flying over the controls. "Aye, Captain. Diverting power now." The Shadow lurched forward, narrowly avoiding another barrage of enemy fire. For a moment, it seemed impossible. They were surrounded, outnumbered, and outgunned. But then, a lucky shot from one of their turrets disabled a Kralgan fighter blocking their path. The way was clear, if only for a few seconds. "Go, go, go," Emily yelled, leaning forward as the ship accelerated toward the opening. With a final burst of speed, the Shadow slipped inside, the heavy doors closing behind them with a deafening clang. Inside the Hive world, the atmosphere was eerie. The walls pulsed faintly with a sickly green light, and strange, insectoid drones scuttled along the corridors. Emily's team moved quickly, scanning for the central control hub. According to their intel, destroying it would cripple the entire structure, and with it, the Kralgan Empire's chain of command. "This way," Marcus said, pointing to a large chamber ahead. "That's got to be it." As they approached, a swarm of Kralgan drones emerged from the shadows, their razor-sharp limbs glinting menacingly in the dim light. "Prepare for close combat," Emily ordered, drawing her sidearm. Her crew followed suit, weapons ready. The fight was brutal and chaotic. The drones were fast and relentless, overwhelming the team with sheer numbers. One by one, members of the strike team fell, either injured or killed. Emily fought with everything she had, her movements fueled by desperation. She knew they couldn't afford to fail. Not now. Finally, after what felt like hours, the last drone collapsed to the ground. Emily glanced around, her chest heaving as she caught her breath. Only a handful of her crew remained standing, bloody but determined. "Set the charges," she commanded, her voice hoarse. "Make sure it counts." Marcus hesitated, looking at her with wide eyes. "Captain, someone needs to stay behind to detonate them manually. Once we set them off, there won't be time to escape." Emily met his gaze, understanding what he was asking. Without hesitation, she stepped forward. "I'll do it," she said firmly. "You and the others get back to the ship. Tell Carter we held up our end." Marcus shook his head, tears welling up in his eyes. "No, Captain. Let me." "No arguments," Emily interrupted, her tone leaving no room for debate. "This is my mission. Now go." Reluctantly, Marcus and the surviving crew members turned and ran, leaving Emily alone in the chamber. She worked quickly, placing explosives at key points around the control hub. When she was done, she activated the timer and took a deep breath. The countdown began. 10 minutes. Emily glanced around the chamber one last time, her mind flashing back to all the battles she'd fought, all the lives she'd saved and lost. She thought of Ryan Carter and the rest of the Coalition fleet, still fighting desperately to give her this chance. A small smile crossed her lips. "For everyone," she whispered, before turning and sprinting toward the exit. She didn't make it far. Just as she reached the corridor, a group of Kralgan soldiers appeared, cutting off her escape. They raised their weapons, their glowing eyes fixed on her. Emily stood her ground, raising her own weapon defiantly. "Come on, then," she muttered under her breath. The first shot rang out, and the world went dark. Outside, the Shadow roared to life, its engines screaming as it prepared to flee. Marcus stared at the hive world through the viewport, his hands trembling on the controls. "Detonation in 30 seconds," came the automated voice. The crew watched in silence as the countdown reached 0. Then, with a blinding flash, the hive world erupted into a massive fireball, consuming everything within its reach. The shockwave rippled outward, destroying nearby ships and sending debris hurtling through space. Back aboard the Eclipse, Ryan felt the distant tremor of the explosion. He closed his eyes for a moment, knowing what it meant. Emily Dawson had given everything to ensure their victory. Now, it was up to them to finish the fight. The destruction of the hive world sent shockwaves through the Kralgan fleet. Without their central command hub, the insectoid warriors began to falter, their once coordinated attacks devolving into chaos. Ships drifted aimlessly, weapons firing sporadically, as if unsure of what to target next. The Coalition fleet seized the opportunity, pressing their advantage with relentless ferocity. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge of the Eclipse watching as the tide of battle turned in their favor. "All ships, focus fire on the remaining enemy vessels," he ordered, his voice steady despite the exhaustion etched into his face. "We need to finish this now." Admiral Hartman's cruiser Defiant led the charge, unleashing a barrage of heavy artillery that tore through the disorganized Kralgan ranks. Smaller fighters darted between the larger ships, picking off stragglers and delivering crippling blows. Explosions lit up the void, each one bringing them closer to victory. But even as the Kralgans retreated, the cost of the battle weighed heavily on everyone. The Coalition fleet had suffered devastating losses, ships destroyed, crews lost, lives shattered. Ryan glanced at Laura Bennett, who was quietly coordinating damage reports from the surviving vessels. Her expression was grim, mirroring the sorrow that hung over the entire crew. "Status report," Ryan said softly, breaking the silence. Laura hesitated before responding. "We've lost nearly half our fleet, Captain. Casualties are high." She paused, swallowing hard. The strike team aboard the Shadow managed to escape, but Captain Dawson didn't make it. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment, letting the weight of her words sink in. Emily Dawson had sacrificed herself to destroy the hive world, buying them the chance to win this fight. Her bravery would not be forgotten. "Prepare a message for the fleet," he said finally. Tell them we honor those who gave everything today. Their sacrifice will not be in vain." As the last of the Kralgan ships flowed into hyperspace, the Coalition forces regrouped around Titan Station. The battered ships limped home, their hulls scared and their crews weary but alive. Medical teams worked tirelessly to treat the wounded, while engineers scrambled to repair the damage inflicted during the battle. Later that evening, Ryan gathered the senior officers in the station's main conference room. The mood was somber, the air thick with grief and relief. Admiral Hartman sat at the head of the table, his weathered face lined with fatigue. "We won," he said simply, his voice heavy with emotion. "But at a terrible price." Captain Dawson's name came up repeatedly as they discussed the mission. Marcus Reed, her second in command, recounted the final moments aboard the Shadow Asterisk, his voice trembling as he described her decision to stay behind. "She knew what she was doing," he said, tears welling up in his eyes. "She saved us all." Ryan nodded solemnly. "Emily Dawson was a hero," he said firmly, "and we'll remember her as such. But we also have to think about what comes next." The artifact remained a point of contention. Some argued that it should be studied further, its secrets unlocked to strengthen humanity's defenses. Others believed it was too dangerous to keep, suggesting it be destroyed immediately. The debate grew heated, with emotions running high. Finally, Sarah Miller spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. "This thing caused all of this," she said, gesturing toward the protective case containing the crystal. "If we hadn't found it, none of this would have happened. Maybe destroying it is the only way to ensure no one else gets hurt." Ryan considered her words carefully. He knew she was right. The artifact was a double-edged sword, capable of both creation and destruction. But he also couldn't ignore the potential knowledge it held. After a long pause, he made his decision. "We'll seal it away. For now," he said. "Somewhere no one can reach it. If the galaxy needs it again, we'll decide then." The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling over everyone. They had fought hard, bled, and lost friends to secure this fragile peace. For now, it was enough. Hours later, Ryan stood alone on the observation deck of Titan Station, staring out at the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly before him, vast and full of mysteries yet to uncover. Somewhere out there, new threats might already be gathering. But for tonight, they were safe, and that was enough. Months passed after the battle, and the galaxy slowly began to heal. Treaties were signed, alliances strengthened, and borders redrawn in an effort to prevent future conflicts. The Kralgan Empire, now leaderless and fractured, retreated deep into their territory, leaving behind only whispers of their once dominant presence. For humanity and its allies, the war was over, but the scars remained. Captain Ryan Carter sat in his quarters aboard the Eclipse Asterisk, staring at a small holographic image projected on his desk. It showed Captain Emily Dawson, smiling confidently during a mission debriefed months earlier. Her sacrifice had become a symbol of courage across the Coalition fleet, her name spoken with reverence by those who survived. Ryan sighed quietly, feeling the weight of leadership pressing down on him once again. The artifact, sealed away in a secure vault buried beneath Titan Station, continued to haunt his thoughts. Despite the decision to lock it up indefinitely, questions lingered. What secrets did it hold? Could it truly be destroyed, or was it indestructible? These uncertainties gnawed at him, reminding him that peace was fragile and often temporary. On the bridge of the Eclipse Asterisk, Sarah Miller worked alongside Lieutenant Daniel Hayes, reviewing data collected from the artifact before it was secured. Though they hadn't been able to fully decode its mysteries, fragments of information hinted at technologies far beyond anything humanity currently possessed. "It's like looking through a keyhole into another world," Sarah said thoughtfully, scrolling through lines of alien script on her screen. Daniel nodded, leaning back in his chair. "And that's exactly why we shouldn't trust ourselves with it," he replied. "We're not ready for something like this. Maybe we never will be." Sarah glanced at him, her brow furrowing. But what if someone else finds it? Someone worse than us. That's why we have to keep it hidden, Daniel said firmly. If we can't control it, no one should. Their conversation was interrupted by Laura Bennett stepping onto the bridge. She carried a datapad, her expression unreadable. Captain wants to see both of you, she said simply. Briefing room. When they arrived, Ryan was already there, standing near the holodeck. His face was serious but calm. I've received orders from command, he began without preamble. The artifact is being moved to a classified location, somewhere even fewer people know about. Only a handful of individuals will have access, including me. Sarah frowned. Is that safe? What if something goes wrong? It's the best option we have, Ryan replied. Keeping it here makes us a target. Moving it ensures it stays out of reach, for everyone. The decision wasn't popular among the crew, but they understood the necessity. Over the next few days, preparations were made to transport the artifact. Heavily armed escorts accompanied the convoy as it left Titan Station, under cover of darkness. No records were kept of its destination. Even Ryan didn't know where it would end up. All he could do was hope it would remain undisturbed. As the weeks turned into months, life aboard the Eclipse returned to some semblance of normalcy. Missions resumed, patrols continued, and repairs were completed. Yet the shadow of Xylo 7 lingered in the minds of everyone who had been part of the operation. They had faced unimaginable odds and emerged victorious, but at great cost. One evening, Ryan found himself on the observation deck once again, gazing out at the endless expanse of stars. Sarah joined him silently, holding 2 cups of steaming tea. She handed one to him and leaned against the railing. Do you think we'll ever find something like that again? She asked softly. Ryan took a sip of the tea, considering her question. Probably, he admitted. The universe is full of wonders and dangers, but that's why we keep exploring. To learn, to grow, and to protect. Sarah smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting the distant lights of the cosmos. Even if it scares us. Especially when it scares us, Ryan said, returning the smile. Fear reminds us to be careful, and care is what keeps us alive. They stood together in silence, watching as the stars twinkled endlessly in the void. Somewhere out there, the artifact rested in its hidden vault, waiting patiently for whatever the future might bring. For now, though, humanity had earned a moment of peace, a fragile but hopeful pause in the vastness of space.